I hope you can all see my stack of books underneath here. I don't have any behind me, even though I would really love to show you all how smart I am, especially through osmosis. You know, I live around these books. Welcome back to the Aaryn Lang Show, episode 3. How are you doing? I'm doing okay. I'm doing better than okay. I'm doing really well, actually. It is finally looking like summertime. I don't know if we actually had a spring this go round. I feel like it was just cold like a week and a half ago. If that long, and today it's like 90 degrees, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be like severe thunderstorms over the next few days. Hopefully, after that, things will level out a little bit. But yes, I'm happy the weather is finally breaking. I felt like we were like in a winter, and then winter kind of just was not really trying to get out of here, and she was bumming me the out. I don't know about you all, but I'm doing really well. I hope you're doing well too. I hope this episode finds you doing well. Oh God, my nose is running. You know, I don't normally just have a bra on hand to wipe my nose with, but I was cleaning off my camera. It was a little fuzzy. The new season of Couples Therapy started on, I think this last Friday, or I don't know when it started.
Move on. Really intense feelings come up.
Frustrate me. That was on me.
Stupidest thing I've ever heard. Doesn't mean it's the only way.
Time out.
Can't breathe.
End all you want. I don't think there's anything left.
I watched it, and my main takeaway is it's time to cancel couples therapy. I think there are some shows that only can last if people don't. Like, I think, like, you know, shows like Love is Blind and, like, things like that. I think shows like this can only really do well if people don't watch them before they come onto the show. I think even now, like, Couples Therapy, this season was only 9 episodes. Last season, or maybe the season before, was like 18. Because I feel like they're finding less kind of maybe open people, less honest people. There was a couple on this year, a trans lady and this autistic dude, and I hated them. Well, I hated him. I didn't hate them. And I don't hate him because he's autistic, even though I feel like that's kind of how they were trying to present it in the episode, is that all of her gripes, which were like very righteous gripes, if you ask me, like this was stealing money from this girl. And she had paid off all his credit cards. I was just like, do I need to date a trans? Because I just was like, wow, she was so helpful to pay off somebody's credit cards that they had completely maxed out, only for them to remax them out again, and then for her to be him at his mama's house, and they're at the mama's house, and she's a big girl. She's a big juicy lady. She's like, we can't on this twin bed because I'm a big juicy lady, and she's like, I will pay for you to get like a bigger bed. And I was like thinking like one or two things. I was like, his must be phenomenal. That was kind of, because I was like, she's doing a whole lot. Like, I know the girls are desperate for love, but I was like, he's not exactly a looker. He was very short. Well, in comparison to her, he was a very small man. He was bald, and he was a little, well, let me not say he was a little. That might have to do with him being autistic. Well, no, because I don't want to say everybody who's autistic is a little. I think that's unfair. I don't think that's the truth. But I think he was a little. Because how you stealing somebody's. Let me backtrack. She gave him the money to buy a larger bed and larger bed frame. And he bought a game console. He bought a game console and a game, I think. Something like that. He didn't use the money on what? Oh, no, no, no. It wasn't that. He bought a 60-inch TV and a game console to go along with it. No bed. So they still are needing to on this twin bed. And when she brings it up, he has a whole fit and starts like slamming his hands on his pants and saying like, I told you I was going to pay you back and all of this type of stuff. And it was kind of just being presented that like, okay, these outbursts and these things are because he is autistic and has ADHD and he's gotten his diagnosis late. Like at some point when they are talking, she's saying to him like, nobody knows or nobody speaks about like the other side of being with somebody who is neurodivergent. And Orna, the therapist, who I really, really appreciated more in previous seasons than this one, is like telling her that she's kind of on a slippery slope and to change her direction and how she is talking about this man. I don't know. I think the show is over. I think if they can only get 9 episodes out of it, there are a few other couples in there. I don't know. I just think it's I think it's an experiment that has run its course. You know, I think a lot of people look to it, or a lot of people look forward to watching it. And because we are in late stage capitalism, anything that people are willing to tune in and anything that people can post or put their advertisement dollars into is not going to get killed. Even though I think this show has run its course already, or do it somewhere else, like where this show maybe isn't popular. But I just think it's run its course. Much like Real Housewives of Atlanta, which if you did watch the last episode, I had a lot of suggestions for Real Housewives of Atlanta, but now I'm feeling like it's time to let's just cancel it. Let's just cancel Real Housewives of Atlanta. You know, I've said I've been watching it for a very long time now. The show is just not, I mean, of course, let me not say authentic. I think authentic isn't exactly the right word when we're talking about people being filmed, doing things and hanging out with people that aren't necessarily their friends and things of that nature. But the je ne sais quoi, je ne sais quan, you know, of Real Housewives, it's just not there anymore. And one of my main gripes is I really think it's a Gen X show. Like, I don't mean the viewers need to be Gen X, but I think the participants, I think the cast members need to be primarily Gen X. I think when you watch this season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, a lot of the people who are on the show are people who grew up, or maybe not grew up, but people who watched Real Housewives of Atlanta. Like people, I remember K on the show now. If you're not watching, K on the show now. And K kind of in her confessional was reading and saying whatever. And I saw somebody on Threads saying like, okay, they finally got their Nene. They have not gotten their Nene. It's just so contrived and it's just so, I don't know. Like I said about the last season, the quote unquote reboot, that I only want people on Real Housewives of Atlanta that had those, you know, grainy like elementary school pictures where they had that one bang from the roller their mama put in their hair and the grease, you know, like I don't want people who have like new like elementary school photo backgrounds on the show. I just don't think it's the same thing. I need people who grew up through like the crack epidemic, you know. I need people who like were there and were able to understand when Bill Clinton was cheating on Hillary Clinton, when Hillary Clinton was calling people super predators. Like I need people who were going to the club around that time to be on these shows. I don't need people who were just getting like out and like just getting out of high school when Young Jock was on the radio. Like I don't need that for my Real Housewives of Atlanta. I think they would be good to be, you know, friends of the show maybe, but as actual like main peach holders and kind of carrying the show, it's just not hitting. These girls don't have it, and they definitely don't have it together. I would say I'm at the point where it's time to cancel it. I think it's time to cancel it. I think if you have a reboot, and then you have to reboot the reboot with new people again, and it's just still not hitting. On there crying about some rumor about her coochie stinking.
I know that a mother is sitting there plotting my hurt. I'm not gonna smile in your face. I know exactly the whole plot.
What's the plot?
And it's just enough. Enough. I'm over it. Much like Pitchfork is over Chris Beat 'em Up Brown's new album. Pitchfork released their review of Chris Brown's new album. I keep saying I'm going to look at stuff before I start talking. I know it's called like Chris Brown. Maybe it's called Breezy. Is it called Breezy? Is the album called Breezy? Probably not. But Pitchfork, excuse me, sorry to my microphone. Pitchfork said, we don't want none. Chris Brown released it's like 26 songs on that album, which who the is trying to listen to 26 songs on an album and it's not. Even though his front cover does look kind of like he's trying to throw back to that time. But Pitchfork said, keep it. You could have kept it at 12 songs. You could have kept it at 8. It could have been an EP. They said, actually, you could have just scrapped the whole project. We really, really don't want none. Shout out to them. I think they also just released a review of Drake's new album. I don't know what's going on with Drake. They gave him a higher review than they gave Beat 'em Up Brown. But I want Drake. I know Kendrick. Oh gosh, I'm losing my sense of time just because of the happenings. I'm losing my sense of time. But Drake and Kendrick Lamar, I'm over the beef. The beef it's no longer beef. It's spam. It's tofu. I'm over it. I think it's time to move on. I know Drake and Kendrick were going back and forth. Drake's new album, I don't know if it's called Iceman. Again, I'm just, bear with me, everybody. And I'm not a journalist. I'm just a diva who yaps, I'm a diva with opinions. Go to your journalist if you want them to have everything, kind of set up perfectly for you. But I think the album is called Iceman, which, considering Lil Wayne and considering Nicki Minaj, I think it's just in poor taste, the way they play around with kind of like MAGA and like Trump and just all of that type of though I know Drake's fan base is like primarily like incels, so it's not exactly going to upset, his fan base. It's just kind of like, please give me a Drake. But Pitchfork said they didn't want none with Drake either. I want them to wrap this beef up. I do not give a damn about Kendrick Lamar and Drake in 2026 when gas prices are $5 a gallon, where Trump is bombing and fighting and warring with Iran, where they're trying to bring the draft back. I don't care about They Not Like Us, and Bad Bunny was the one at the Super Bowl. So this means, this beef is old. This beef is tired. This is beef from like 2024 at this point. It's just time to wrap it up. I'm not advocating for anybody to shoot each other, but if nobody's going to get shot, I think we've had enough of the poetry, the warring poets. We've had enough. Let's move on to a new beef. I hate it. And I also feel like Kendrick Lamar gets so much for kind of the like winning in the beef, but nobody came back at Megan Thee Stallion. And in my opinion, Megan shot the hardest at Drake through all of this, and Kendrick just came up and swept up what Meg left on the floor, which was really only crumbs to begin with.
Cosplay, gangsters, fake ass accents, posted in another nigga hood like a bad pig.
Megan's Law. Megan did one, well, that's two. Megan did one song and literally laid it to rest. She said, I'm gonna get this off my chest and lay it to rest. And she did just that. Shout out to Megan Thee Stallion. April was a really hard month. I feel like black women went through so much in April, and we had been thinking, that Megan was okay through everything that was going on. Not that Megan is necessarily a constant, in my mind, especially when the happenings are happening. But shout out to Megan Thee Stallion. I just want to see my diva win. I want somebody to go ahead and love on her. Maybe I want somebody to love on me too. I think we are able to see ourselves in Megan's kind of very laser focus on her career and everything that she's able to accomplish, and also doing that kind of while having so much just kind of tragedy and trauma in the background of her kind of rise to fame. I was very sad to learn that Clay PBS Face Thompson was cheating on Megan Thee Stallion, and he's not even a good dancer. I was, it really pisses me off that she put out that song, Lover Girl, because she really bragged on Clay's a lot. And even if they're not together, I think of Jermaine Dupri and Janet Jackson, and how Janet Jackson said that, a lot of, I don't even think it was just Janet Jackson. I think Jermaine was like, so many women were throwing themselves at him because he was with Janet Jackson, which when they were together, Janet was still, I think this is pre-titty Super Bowl. That was the Super Bowl. I think this was before her titty popped out, or during, I can't remember. But he said that women were like throwing themselves at him. And Jermaine looks like, do y'all remember Happily Ever After on HBO, where they would always have Chris Rock like playing like Anansi, the spider? I feel like Jermaine Dupri looks like the Anansi spiders that were based off of Chris Rock, but somehow look just like Jermaine Dupri. So, and I also heard Jermaine has a huge so there might be some correlation here, but I just hate that she brags so much on his and that his family, his RuPaul looking ass daddy, was being so like nice and bigging her up, and she was cooking and frying chicken and for their Thanksgiving, and he was spreading it low and wide. But I also have a sneaking feeling that due to her being with him, that she knew that even if he played it off, that he couldn't handle being on the receiving end of kind of so much backlash for doing her dirty like he did. But yeah, Klay Thompson. And these period, actually, not just Klay Thompson. I love black men. But it's a lot going on. Really, April was a really terrible, terrible month for black women. April is Black Women's History Month specifically. And it was like every day, every week, there was news of like a killing his girlfriend, killing his wife, or, killing his kids. There was a mass shooting in April where this devilish bald man with teeth like knives, he shot 8 kids. And I think they were all his kids. I'm pretty sure they were all his kids. 8 kids. Shot them down, chased them, and killed them in April. And I believe he shot either 2 of the mothers or 1 of the mothers. He had like 5 or 6 kids with 1 woman specifically. And I believe he killed all of her kids in April. And yeah, I think there's always a lot of discourse, about people hating black men and things of that nature. But I did not see so much discourse from black men, at least that wasn't pandering to black women, or just like actually interrogating, like, what is wrong with you? I think I asked that in my last episode when I was talking about Africa Bombada. Um, and I said his name wrong so many times. I think it's Africa Bombada. Whatever. He's maggot food at this point. But African Bombada being a like child predator, and him being the founder of hip hop or the godfather of hip hop, and that not being something that is like being looked at, by hip hop heads or by black men, at all, really, in any real way, just kind of writing it off. And I think even with this stuff happening, I saw black men talking about it, but I didn't see it from a true kind of, I know the narrative's always, we have to protect our women and we have to do all of that, but that doesn't really interrogate kind of like what is going on, like what is going on with y'all, and how are we going to, or how are y'all going to shift just the nature of black manhood in this country. But that's really, that's not my cross to bear, and that's not really my business. I do want to talk about, though, grief. Speaking about these 8 kids that were killed. My camera is just shaking, honey. I don't know. I've stabilized my mic. I guess I have to figure out how to stabilize my camera. I feel like I'm gonna get motion sickness watching her shake from side to side. If you get motion sickness watching this, I'm so sorry. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the ride. This will be like a cruise minus the hantavirus. But I don't know. My whole apartment is kind of like at an angle. I don't know how they manage that. I'm sure it has something to do with like the ground shifting or something, because we are actively, destroying our planet. We don't know what's going on. But yes, grief. These 8 kids were killed by their father in April. And just last week, they held the funeral for these kids. And I happened to catch a glimpse of Kim Burrell. It's Kim Burrell, get your title. At this funeral. And it made me very uncomfortable, what I saw. With that, not with the opening, but at the funeral. Kim Burrell, I always say I think Kim Burrell would be a perfect, like, Disney villain, even a DreamWorks villain. I just want her in some type of animated thing playing a villain. I think even if she's not intentionally that way, she just has a bit of a, just a little... There's something devilish about it. I don't know, it's like, and not necessarily that she does mean harm, even though she might. I know there's been a lot of controversy with her in the LGBT community. I know she had a lot to say about the LGBT community, and her hair has not recovered. I'm not sure what exactly Kim Burrell is doing. I don't know if she is just putting her real hair in a bun and combing some of it out in the front. I don't know if it's a half wig. She was walking around in this ghoulish orange hair with all this black hair. I mean, at least a foot tall of black hair in front of it. And the wig is just sitting atop it. And she is sitting and talking to people, just daring them, to laugh in her face. But nobody does. Nobody laughs in her face. But anyway, she is at this funeral, and she starts preaching and talking about how God doesn't make any mistakes.
He's the God that makes decisions like these, that makes us walk away scratching our heads. But he is a God that doesn't have to give us all the clues. Just know that he makes no mistakes. I dare somebody lift your hands and say, ain't no mistakes in here. I dare you to say, there are no mistakes going on in this room. You got to take authority over the enemy. There are people who have to live with this for years to come. But I want you to make a decision, family. We're with you. How many of you are in here with the family today? We're not here to just spectate, be a part of a story. No, we're here for you. I don't live in Louisiana. I came from another state because I care. I wanted this family to know that God is real. And guess what's going to happen even after this? He going to make a way somehow.
Right. And I understand that I get it. You know, I get people who follow Christianity, that is one of the things that they believe, you know, to keep going. But I just was really struck. It reminded me of this song by Big Crit, The Vent. In the song, he says, a neighbor lost a child. Oh, a neighbor lost a child. I tried to ease her pain. It's only God's will. She said she felt the same. And I remember when I heard it like a long time ago, it didn't really strike me as anything. But I heard it a few years ago and I was like, who the is trying to hear that? Like when they lose their child. Like, could you give me some time to just weep? Like, there is no time, even in the faith, to just recognize the gravity of the tragedy of this. Like, I just feel like, where is the space for us to just weep? Where is the space for us to just say, I actually don't have anything to say. You got standing up. It was so Twilight Zone-y to me.
Whoa, he's gonna do it. Come on. Lift your head up. Lift your head up. He's gonna do it. Somehow, baby, yes he will. You understand? He's got another plan.
She's singing, you know, Kim Burrell has a beautiful voice. She's singing, the choir's getting up, hooting and hawing, child. The people are standing in the pews, you know, waving their arms. Yes, Lord, God makes no mistakes. But it just felt so, because, you know, after a funeral is when it really hits. You know, there's the death, and I'm thinking, and I'm talking about deaths that are not people being murdered. But, you know, there are the deaths, and then there's the planning and the people coming over every day and the people like, oh, you know, I'm so sorry for your loss, blah, 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 blah. Then after the funeral, you know, people go to the repast and then it's done. People may still check on you, the people who are really close. She lost 8 kids. I'm sure she's not being abandoned after the funeral, but it's like it really settles in after the funeral. Why can't we just take the time to just be with the grief of what is going on? Why can't we just take the time to just be with the grief of everything that is going on? I understand that we have to continue, and I understand people feel like, you know, if I start crying, I'm never going to stop, right? But it's like, well, can we see if we're never going to stop? Can we at least have a chance to actually feel this, you know? And it feels so interesting to me because it's also, you know, Kevin Hart just had a roast. And, you know, me personally, the only time I would watch a roast of Kevin Hart is if he was literally being set on fire. I do not find Kevin Hart to be funny at all outside of his height, right? I don't really understand how, well, yes, I do. He's a pejorative. I don't, you know, I've said this before. There's nothing wrong with sucking. But he's a to elites. He's a to the white people who pay his bills, which I get it. I'm sure he has big bills, right? But nothing exemplifies that more than his roast. Where this MAGA comedian, I can't remember his name. He looks like a rat. I don't know what his name is. I think his last name is Hinchcombe or something. Like I said, I didn't watch the whole roast. I did see Cheryl Underwood, who was hilarious. I did see Chelsea Handler, who was also very funny. I thought Chelsea looked really beautiful, and that's something I would rarely, if ever, say. I thought she looked really great. It was a lot of in the building, so I got it. I understand, Chelsea. But this Hitchcombe man, I'll look his name up. I'll put it up here maybe. But him is telling his jokes, not funny, by the way. None of his jokes make me laugh. I think I saw him at like I was not there to see him, but I think I saw clips of him like a year or two ago at like the RNC. He's literally like just a racist white dude. Telling this joke, and he tells a joke about George Floyd.
Community is so proud of you right now. George Floyd is looking up at us all, laughing so hard that he can't breathe. God bless you, Kevin. God bless this room, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
George Floyd, who was literally murdered in an extremely horrific way in 2020, and all caught on camera. Like, could you imagine dying with somebody's knee on your neck? That's not funny. Like, at what point, while we're sitting in the midst of a coup, we are a year and a half into a coup, into the second presidency of this maniac who has no desire and won't be leaving this office without any type of force, who is making sure that the Confederacy is able to get their lick back. Like, what the is funny about a roast of Kevin Hart from the Lollipop Guild? What is funny about George Floyd being murdered? And I feel like Black people are always supposed to be moving on from stuff. And I feel the same way seeing Kim Burrell, you know, God makes no mistakes. If God don't do it, then it won't get done. Thank goodness these babies were killed by their father, so they don't have to go through things that adults may have to go through. Let's sing, let's dance, and let's, whatever.
All right, now let the music play.
I feel the same way about that I feel about this racist ass white man standing in front of this audience, this mixed audience of people, primarily Black people, I'm sure, making a joke about a man who was literally killed by the police on camera for, I think, a pop or some. I think we have lost the plot completely. What did Monique say?
We have to explain brothers like you. We do. And when we watched that movie, Birth of a Nation, and we saw that man walk his wife into that master's house, we watched him walk his wife in. Then we watched him go back and get him. You're that brother. I thank y'all for your time, my babies.
Everything is not a joke. I have very thick skin around comedy, but it's different when we're living in a society that is currently regressing. Like, we're not headed to some type of utopia right now. We're not headed to some place where people are okay with people's differences, whether it's color, whether it's gender, whether it's sexuality, or what have you. We're not going towards those things right now. We are going back to this country's roots, where people were literally enslaved for their labor. It's not funny. And I'm sick of Black people always being expected to just take on the chin and just move the on. Like that, like the kind of constant, just being bombarded always with how racist and how vile, people can be, and how racist and vile this place is, makes way for people like Nature Boy to be able to get 15 to come to his, I don't know, hut or tent or Airbnb in the woods and abuse the out of them because he's luring them there, saying that they're going to be able to escape racism and they're going to be able to escape capitalism and all of these things. People are thirsting out here for a different world, and we're supposed to be laughing at the racist white dude at Kevin Hart's roast. All of them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I do have a question for Ask Aaryn. I got my very first Ask Aaryn question on my Google form, which will be in the box, the information box below. Let me pull it up. Well, it's not on air. I'm not live, but let me pull it up. This is my dream. Okay. Oh, wonderful. So the question, I say on the form, what's your question, sugar? You know, just to be more enticing, you know? But it says, I'm DL. DL.
Yeah, Drake. Drake.
Okay. Contemplating coming out. Do you have any advice? I don't even know where to start, LOL. Do I just tell those closest to me and let others find out? Okay. DL, girl. Now, when people say DL, I have a very specific thought in mind, or a type of person in mind. And in my head, there's a difference between being like DL and then closeted and even like discreet, right? So for me, DL is like, I'm gonna go suck a glory hole, and then I'm gonna go and like kiss my wife and kids and like read them a bedtime story and never say anything. Like in my head, DL is kind of like the sexuality piece is really secrecy. Like you get off on the secrecy thing. Is that what you are? Is that what you're saying? I hope you misspoke, because baby, I don't have any advice for that other than seek help, and not from me, right? And then there's closeted, which is like you belong to the LGBTQ community in some way. You didn't specify. I don't know where you are on any spectrum. God, you might not even be talking about sex. Maybe you're talking about being MAGA, which that would actually be really hilarious for you to be asking me that, and that's what it was about. But closeted, I think, is very different, where, you know, you're on the spectrum somewhere, some way, shape, or form, and you might have partners, you might not, but you are not telling people, like you are keeping it on the hush, right? And then there's discreet, where I think of discreet like Tyler Perry. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I think of discreet like people may have an idea or an inkling about how you get down, right? But you keep it to the chest. You're like not saying anything. So I'm choosing to speak to closeted, if you are closeted. First off, you're thinking about it. Congratulations. I know I was making a joke about Ellen DeGeneres, but Ellen made a lot of money coming out, you know. And if you are like somebody who's like, I'm assuming so my assumption is that you are a gay man that is closeted. So if you are a gay man that's closeted, if you're a gay man that's closeted, the more shocking it is, right? The more like you could really turn it and make a coin like Ellen, you know, if you really want to. Like, say you're like a football player or a basketball player or something like that. Oh my gosh. say you're a pastor, right? Like you could really turn this around in a lucrative way. But that's beside the point. Congratulations. Well, you haven't come out, so maybe let me not give you the congratulations too soon. But congratulations on thinking about coming out. If coming out means that you will be experiencing some level of relief, right? I think it's very important if a part of you that you are carrying within you, if it is causing you a tremendous amount of shame, or if it is just adding more difficulty to your life, I feel like my underarms. Oh God, my underarms are sweating, honey. I'm not gonna edit that out. I'm in the zone, right? So what the was I saying? Right. If a part of who you are and how you are is causing you a great amount of shame, or it's making your life more difficult, I think it makes a lot of sense for you to want to free yourself from that, right? As far as what you do, my suggestion is you make some peace with it yourself first, right? And if you have a best friend, if you're close to one of your parents, I think before you tell everybody, tell somebody who you really, really trust if they don't know. And don't tell them to gauge their reaction so you can kind of guide yourself based off of how they respond. Really tell somebody really close to you to see how it feels, right? So if you tell somebody and you're like, oh, okay, they didn't really care, or they're going to be like, we already knew, right? Like, well, girl, come on. Like, I already knew you were gay, or I already knew you were whatever, or I already knew you were MAGA. Take how you feel and let that guide you. And I would say, I started a journaling practice earlier this year. I think take some time, if this is something, depending on how old you are, if you're very young, it might not be something that is so whatever. But if you're somebody who's been closeted for a long time, do some like self-exploration around it. Because I feel like, yes, you want other people to know, but I feel like there is something with you. There is some part of you, that you are feeling called to express or relieve or release, for yourself. So I would say do some journaling around it. Do some thinking around it. Tell somebody you're really, really close to that will stick by you no matter what, right? And depending on how you feel from there, let that guide how you move forward. But you also have to understand the people you're very close to, even if they've stuck through you through thick and thin, you got to understand that people all have their own things. People may leave because you say this, when I've come out 1,000 times in my life for many things, and I had to get to a place where it was, this is me or you. At the end of the day, there are billions of people on this planet. And it hurts, the idea that people we love may leave us, or people we love may turn their backs on us when we reveal ourselves to them. But at the end of the day, this is about you, your spirit, and your freedom. You have to get to a place where you don't lose you, and you aren't in threat of losing yourself at all, no matter how anybody responds. So again, I say tell somebody close to you, but really do some sitting around with it. Tell somebody close to you, and then, if the people close to you are okay with you, baby, do a Facebook post. Well, the people aren't on Facebook. Maybe you're on X. Maybe you're on Instagram. If you feel the need to kind of put it out there like that, put it out there after that. But just be ready for yourself and the new journey you're going to have with yourself. I know for me, I was like, baby, if my mama don't give a I don't give a about what nobody gives a about. But I also said, if my mama gives a I don't give a because I have to live my life at the end of the day. So I say all that to say, I don't know. But just be prepared no matter what. Get to a place where no matter how people receive it, that you are going to be okay with it. And if you are not DL, like glory hole, kiss your family and your wife and stuff on the mouth afterwards, that's something, like I said, completely different. If you're just closeted, it's okay to keep stuff close to your chest also. You don't have to hide. You don't have to, if you're out with somebody that you're interested in, you don't have to, unclench their hands, or you don't have to, lie about who you are to each other. But it's also okay for you to keep some of your business to yourself, especially in increasingly hostile times towards people who are different. I'm not saying hide yourself, but it's also okay. I think we have put a lot of emphasis on people coming out, and I think there's a beauty, in that, but everybody can't handle kind of a certain level of being out there. So just make sure you know where you sit and where you fit on that thing. And if you come out to one person and you say, I want to have a whole parade and I want to scream it from the mountaintops and I want to do whatever, go for it. But if you do that and you still feel like, okay, I want people to know who I am, I want people to know who I love or who I'm in, or, well, not who I'm in, Lord, but who I love and who I'm pursuing or whatever, but I still want to keep most of my business to myself. I don't necessarily want to become an influencer for it. I don't necessarily want to go, down to the meetings or whatever. You also don't have to feel pressured to do any of those things. These journeys, these lives are our own, and we get to tell people, as much as it is important for us to tell people. So thank you for asking me my first question. Well, my first question was, what would I do if I was Obama for a day? And I don't want to disrespect that lady or her husband, but if you know me, you know what the I'm doing if I'm Obama for a day. But that's beside the point. Thank you for asking me my very first question. I hope that was helpful to you if you do see this. And good luck and potentially congratulations. Yeah. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.